Hi, I'm Sydney, and today I'm going to be talking about the series finale of The Act, episode 8, Free. As always, warning, if you have not seen it yet, this is all spoilers, so go watch it. So right away, this episode creates the structure of time jumping by flashing back to 1997. Dee Dee and little kid Gypsy are sleeping outside, looking up at some stars that look super fake. And right away, I was really disappointed that they were going back in time again, just because I loved the linear structure of the last episode so much. But at this point in the episode, I'm still hopeful for where it's about to go. We then see Gypsy back at court. She pleads not guilty, which is how she pleaded in real life the first time. And we also get a slight glimpse of the news media coverage that surrounded the case, but I feel like they could have gotten into that a little bit more. But I do like that they incorporate a little bit the media that surrounded this. Okay, so let's address the dad thing. This has been a huge issue for me throughout the series, and they finally resolved it. Kind of. At this point, the death penalty is on the table for Gypsy, and she is in need of her medical records from her father in order to support her case. At first, she's all like, I don't have a dad. But her lawyer gives it to her straight up and says,
we need people on your side or the state of Missouri is going to kill you.
Damn. She eventually ends up calling her dad, and he comes to visit during visiting hours. Cliff Chamberlain, who plays Rod, Gypsy's dad, actually looks a lot like the real dad in real life, so that was good on the casting part. He ends up bringing her some candy bars because he remembered that she likes sweet stuff, which is the first clue into what is about to be revealed. He brings her medical records, and most of the papers say something along the lines of, Mom claims such and such illness, which for the audience is not news to us, but for Gypsy this is really revealing. But here is where it gets juicy. So Gypsy confronts her dad about not loving her and not being there. But he then reveals photographs that shows he was present during her life and at many events. And he even continued to support them financially every month, like up until then basically. Gypsy was so brainwashed that she didn't even remember him being there at different events throughout her life. This kind of explains why Gypsy throughout the series never acknowledges him, and she says that she doesn't know him. One thing that it doesn't really explain for me though is why he's not present during Gypsy's birth scene in episode 6 or any of those flashbacks to her childhood. Because I mean, yeah, I guess he wouldn't be present during her just being at home, but I don't know, you would think he would be at the birth unless Dee Dee just like really prevented that from happening. I don't know, I'm just personally kind of confused by that.
Hello, you world.
So we know that Rod and Dee Dee married when he was only 17, which is just so young, and we can see that in a very complicated way. He really does love Gypsy. Later we see that the doctor in jail is just so harsh compared to the pediatricians that she's had her whole life, but rightfully so. The doctor says, you're one of the healthiest people in here. And I'm sure that this doctor's seen some really gnarly stuff from, stabbings and different cancers and just really violent things. But this is probably how most people who've passed through Gypsy's life are feeling about her right now. They're probably feeling a huge lack of sympathy. Won't care. The show does continue, though, to create a sympathy narrative driven towards Nick. Nick and Gypsy end up passing by one another, and he mentions to her that Bonnie and Clyde died together, and like that's what they're gonna do basically. But she's like, I don't want that. But he's like, that's why I saved you, so that we could be together. I don't think they're being accurate at all in this series regarding his motives or giving him enough credit for his will to want to kill regardless of his love for Gypsy. We see at one point that Mel is having a barbecue and she's just totally talking crap on Dee Dee and Gypsy. And then poor Lacey, she's just reflecting and she's kind of realizing that something was off. And it's only with retrospect that she's able to really recognize that, which I can't even imagine having to go through that because so many people were fooled. And imagine how her doctors feel knowing after the fact. Mel ends up going to visit Gypsy in prison, and Mel, as someone who is fooled, she just wants to understand everything so badly. And this was a moment that stood out for me because we can really see how different Gypsy is now that she's away from her mom. She's a lot more articulate and vocal with Mel than I've ever seen her in the past, and her tone of voice is slightly deeper in range. Mel ends up leaving Gypsy and basically saying that none of this happened for any reason and that sometimes you just gotta live through it, and she ends up walking away by quoting Dee Dee, saying,
"Sometimes the only way out is through."
Now we are taken to another flashback of the night of the murder. This is where the episode really goes downhill for me. We see Dee Dee and Gypsy in bed, and Dee Dee's voice is just so annoying. I'm so over her. And they're talking about protecting each other. And I get that this is supposed to be a really powerful moment because it's the last time that Gypsy is with Dee Dee before Gypsy knows she's about to get murdered. But I don't know, for some reason I just feel kind of annoyed and I'm just over it. And then randomly Dee Dee says,
"Don't hurt me, sweet pea."
Really? I don't understand. Where did that even come from? Really? That just felt so obvious. That writing was not good. It's not good. At this point, they show more inside detail of what happened the night of the murder, and which I don't understand why they didn't include this in episode 6 or 7. Right before the murder, Gypsy and Nick just look so nervous. Gypsy's in the bathroom during the murder, and she's covering her ears as her mom's calling for her. It's really sad. And that's actually what happened in real life, so good on them for being accurate in that sense. And I agree with Highly Recommended's review on this episode as well on YouTube. He's been reviewing the series as well. You can go check it out. But they could have utilized this scene a lot better in the episode where the murder actually took place. Why are they going back to this again? We know what happened. I will say though, I'm really glad that they didn't show the actual stabbing. I just felt like that would have been so distasteful. So I'm glad that they strayed away from that. Overall, this scene is just really eerie, it's really creepy, and Gypsy and Nick are just like a shivering, crying mess. But this is another really great acting moment for Joey King as she flips this switch into shock and coping. She takes a deep breath and she has tears in her eyes, and then she snaps into bubbly Gypsy, like let's go on an adventure, fantasy, happy, la la land Gypsy. And this for sure is just a really huge coping mechanism of denial for her. Then her and Nick have really like sad, awkward intercourse. Gypsy then lets her guinea pigs free, which is really ironic because her guinea pigs being free is actually probably going to lead to them dying because of exposure to just like the environment, which is very parallel into how now that she's free from her mom, she's actually like at risk for so many horrible things, including the death penalty. It's hard because in court, she's really trying to play the victim card when she truly holds a lot of weight and responsibility for what happened. But we also see in a lot of ways that she really did love her mom and that she's trying to cope with that, which I think is the ultimate psychology ethics question at hand. At what point do we excuse someone's actions due to trauma? Now, not dismiss it, but just give reason and understanding. And at what point do we hold someone responsible for the actions that they have committed? I think in the case of Gypsy, it's kind of a balance of both. The series ends with Gypsy in her cell and her head leaning against her mom's shoulder. And I think it's a good image to represent the bond between Gypsy and Dee Dee that's gonna last with Gypsy her entire life. But I'm not super happy with that ending. At the end, they add a few lines on the screen to say what the outcome of the sentencing was. Gypsy was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Nick was convicted of first-degree murder with life without parole. This episode just felt like a drawn-out version of what we already knew happened. I really wish that they would have given us more of the trial in the present time. Like, the moments with the dad were great because we were getting new information at that point, but they really basically just did a huge flashback for this episode. Again. I'm gonna do a final series review as well as a reality comparison once I watch the documentary, so you can keep an eye out for that. Let me know what you thought of the finale. Were you satisfied with the ending? I'm really curious to hear how other people thought about this conclusion. If you haven't seen The Act, go watch it. It's on Hulu. It's all out there now, so you can binge it if you want. If you liked this video, you can subscribe for more content. That's it.